with more intensity than before this season, how he was willing to recount his success as a player. Tuan Park got out of the car and said they were late. The assistant asked him not to worry too much. Tuan Park glanced around the area and concluded that something had changed. Kang Yusung, in his statement to reporters, said that they like to write high-level articles and like to see success. He added that sometimes he doesn't understand why he has to work so hard to save the world. The young man added that today he was willing to talk a lot and for a long time if the reporters were willing to listen, but they might not like many things he said. They asked Kang Yusung what he thought about the war. The reporters fell silent and postponed other questions. Everyone was interested in the young man's answer. The young man interrupted by asking the reporters how it felt to be pelted with cast iron while climbing the castle walls. He continued, the reporters wondered what it felt like to be shot with an arrow, whether the guts would come out if stabbed with a sword. The reporters were silent. Everyone realized how absurd the question was, but they still wanted to hear Kang Yusung's answer. Kang Yusung said that everyone lives in the 21st century and can no longer avoid war. He continued, if so, according to the times, who is ready for missiles falling from the sky? Who is ready to talk about bullets piercing people, fighter jets bombing innocent people? The young man realized that even though people already live in the 21st century, they still experience the brutality of war. Kang Yusung said he had a very negative attitude towards war. No one should like it. Some reporters argued that whether the war ends in victory or defeat, people will still die. Kang Yusung recalled the elf queen who said she was glad they had been avenged, but also very afraid. Kang Yusung asked the queen what she was afraid of, because after all, her people had won. The girl said she was afraid of the end of this war, of blood and death. The elf queen said she was afraid of the terrible sight of many people dying on the battlefield. The queen asked if this was really what her god wanted. Kang Yusung said he fully agreed with the girl who asked that. The young man added that no sane person enjoys war. The young man asked the reporters what they thought about heroes. The girl was surprised and said that everyone liked heroes. Kang Yusung asked how they thought heroes became heroes because heroes are not born. Getting silence from the reporters, the young man added that by killing enemies and fighting well, people become heroes. Without war, there would be no heroes. Therefore, the young man once again repeated his question, what do the reporters think about war? The reporters were shocked by the statement. Kang Yusung continued, saying that, to be honest, everyone likes war. Someone from the crowd said that it was a provocative statement. The current situation is just a remnant of the past that doesn't fit modern laws. Kang Yusung asked what the past remnants had to do with this, as everything was happening here and now. Even now, neighbors send assassins after him at the beginning of every season. That is also war. Espionage is also considered war. Mr. Park among the crowd seemed very disturbed by his student's statement. A journalist asked if other countries were trying to eliminate Kang Yusung. Kang Yusung smiled and said that no one knows, or maybe it is classified information, so he would stay silent to not reveal more military secrets. Kang Yusung added that if he spoke specifically and mentioned countries and names, he would be harshly censored. Kang Yusung continued by saying that every time he talks about war, the topic of censorship comes up. Did people around him not realize what kind of country they live in? Even if the world were to collapse tomorrow, people would still kill each other today. Countries want to send their best players to the battlefield, using them as weapons in war. The young man added that he was told to draw his sword, but not in front of the world's enemies, rather in front of the country's enemies. Concluding his speech, Kang Yusung said that even without his intervention, this season would still be extraordinary. Finally, the young man asked if they knew why he was here, why he had to go through all this. Has anyone ever wondered why a Kang Yusung should save the world? Kang Yusung said, is this world worth saving? Maria Jejer watched her friend's actions through the internet. Many sponsors of this game watched Kang Yusung's actions through the internet. The journalists, while responding to this question, began to discuss among themselves. This was the beginning of the discussion. Someone in the crowd said that this world is at least worth saving, even if they could not let innocent people suffer, and it would be irresponsible of Kang Yusung to stop being a player. The young man heard a ghost with a clown mask say that he would die a hero or live long enough to become a villain. Kang Yusung smiled and said that he wanted to tell everyone not to take his words seriously. Mr. Park approached the young man, grabbed him by the arm, and pulled him down from the podium. The man told the hero to get down quickly. Mr. Park led his student out of the crowd, shouting for everyone to move aside. For those who didn't understand, he showed his special representative identification card. As they left the journalists behind, Kang Yusung looked back and said that it would be better for those watching him to pay attention to the part about a player's responsibility or the responsibility they have. Kang Yusung still couldn't calm down, even from Mr. Park's car. He said that if the public made arrogant people like him angry, he wouldn't be responsible for all the chaos in the world. The young man hoped the journalists had time for everything. The journalists shouted that they had more questions. The system reported that the Clown King expressed his satisfaction. The War King was very pleased and blessed the hero. Mr. Park, moving away from the journalists, said that he was on his way home, so the young man had to face this alone. The young man said that he didn't care. After the terrorist threats Kang Yusung faced from other countries were publicized, dissatisfaction with the regime increased. The system reported that the king of alternate reality had entered a state of madness and blessed the hero with a legendary object, an amulet to find enemies. Mr. Park wondered why the young man listened to the government's speech. He himself had caused the first commotion with his statement and now wondered about the reaction. Kang Yusung replied, thinking that Mr. Park might be angry. Mr. Park responded, how could he be angry with the young man knowing now what he was going through? Someone closer than Kang Yusung's mentor said that among his closest people, there's Santa Mary Jejer who is now in France. Mr. Pope said that she is as far away as the moon from him. Mr. Park added that the young man at least understands that he owes her a lot. Kang Yusung asked Mr. Park which class she is in now. Mr. Park replied that she is a pure-blooded assassin. The young man asked, does that mean she has awakened? Does she have some kind of special attire? Mr. Park said that she has the Rompicorazone's costume, a legendary weapon of an assassin. Kang Yusung commented that it is a true assassin's weapon. The man said he heard the young man had also acquired legendary equipment. The young man confirmed and said he got the chance. Mr. Park advised his interlocutor to rest more often, working hard never helped anyone. He suggested going somewhere to rest. Mr. Park said he has a beautiful tower on the 7th level. It is the Padrino Tower. The goal of the attack is to revive the Capone family. The players will encounter a secret organization and internal conflict. Mr. Park advised the young man to prepare himself. The man said they would face betrayal, secret hostility, and the undefeated evil of the organization. Kang Yusung, smiling, said that in this case, they should better change the genre to noir. The system reported that the entrance to the Padrino Tower is ready. A girl with an umbrella stopped in front of her house in the rain. She had to resolve some issues before the meeting. A stranger from the house gave her a message and said that was all for now, everything was done. The girl looked at her pocket watch and noticed it had stopped. What bad luck. The girl thought that this watch was a gift from her padrino. Not far from this stranger, our heroes were getting soaked in the rain, Kang Yusung and Mr. Park. These two complained that they should have started the game inside the building, at least they wouldn't be wet. The strange girl realized there were strangers nearby. She approached them and said she needed help. The girl said this is Black York Village, and the Capone family is in crisis. Kang Yusung said they are here just to make things right. The girl, in this case, offered to lead them and promised to take them to the boss. Our heroes followed their guide down the road. The girl gave them the latest information. Their companion said that Black York is managed by 5 prestigious criminal families: Gambino, Falcone, Sanchez, Capone, and Colio. In 4 days, a meeting between the businessmen will begin, but not long after, the Padrino and the former head of the Capone family, along with his henchmen, were brutally massacred. They lost many valuable people. The girl said she was an orphan taken off the streets when she was little. The girl continued that she was lucky her abilities awakened, but it didn't help much. The girl said her life improved when her padrino adopted her. He became her savior. On the day of the attack, she could only save one person, the padrino's son, who is now the current head of the family. The interim head said that he is now the head of the Capone company. Zhang added that he is also the head of the Capone family. Seeing the new boss, Mr. Park couldn't help himself and called him Boss Milkman. The young man's female friend couldn't help but shout that they had no right to call their boss like that. He is nothing like that. They have no right to say that in front of the Capone boss. He is the rightful heir. The girl asked the boss not to be angry with them. Don't be too smart. After all, the boss's presence alone commands respect. The young boss stated that this is how it is. They don't have much time, so they need to get straight to the point quickly. The young boss asked Rebecca to ensure everything was explained to strangers, as there was no time to waste. Rebecca briefly stated that their goal was to restore the Capone family to its former glory by eliminating the competition. She continued, saying that at the next meeting in 4 days between the leaders of the 5 families, they needed to generate the greatest interest. Rebecca continued that it was up to them to find the perpetrators of Padrino's murder and his closest associate, the Kingpin. Hiro asked who they suspected first. Rebecca said they suspected one of the other 4 families and that anyone close to those families might be involved. She added that Gambino was currently under the spotlight, in a precarious position, and more inclined toward war than anyone else. Kang Yusung reviewed the incoming information presented to him. He didn't say a word. Kang Yusung asked if it might make sense to eliminate all these families. Rebecca said it wasn't a bad idea, as that would eliminate all potential family enemies. The kingpin, Hiro, looked at Capone and said it seemed the young boss didn't like that idea. The young Capone said his family had always been a large family that started gaining influence with his father. Now he had Rebecca, who had overseen his father's strategy for the past 20 years. She was the perfect consigliere. The young boss added that Rebecca's methods were the essence of Capone, and he always thought Rebecca was right. Kang Yusung opposed this, saying the Capone leader was a young man, not Rebecca. The young boss said that Rebecca had more experience, so he trusted her. Kang Yusung asked if the young boss wanted to eliminate all competitors. The young boss replied that if they weren't involved, it would be better to maintain their business relationships, as his father wanted. The young boss turned to Rebecca and asked if they could just leave it at that. She said they could, but warned that her boss was too soft. As they left the Capone office, Mr. Park said that there was a power struggle between the 5 main families. The man suggested eliminating the Kolio family first since they were the closest. The kingpin, Hiro, agreed and said that his partner now spoke like a criminal. Is that right, Mr. Park? The man said that to find a criminal, one must think like a criminal. After all, life is a game, and who is wrong if they get caught up in it? The young boss commented that everyone chooses their own role. Our heroes prepared to eliminate the Kolio family. Armed thugs were shocked at who dared to enter Kolio territory. This had never happened before. Kang Yusung, as the king of the heroes, and Mr. Park, dressed as the Heartbreaker, dealt justice by taking down the criminal gang. These two were ruthless and decisive. The Heartbreaker suggested the criminals surrender while they could, as he was willing to forgive those who didn't fight. The armed militants asked if he believed they wouldn't die for the Kolio clan. The militants told the brave to leave immediately. Mr. Park said that in that case, he wouldn't be friendly to anyone, so Mr. Breakheart began enforcing justice relentlessly, leaving the heroes with very little work to do. Kang Yusung remarked that his partner was truly angry. Another group of armed mafia stormed the room, shooting in all directions and shouting that the bastards deliberately attacked before a serious meeting with the clan. Breakheart grabbed a militant and asked the person with the gun, "Is he the head of the Kolio family?" The militant laughed and said that his boss would never stoop to fighting people like those two bastards. Breakheart said, "Let Kang Yusung have fun here alone. He has a boss to deal with." Breakheart reminded him that the young man came here to rest, so he let the young man rest while he handled the clan leader. Kang Yusung agreed. They would relax until exhausted. The hero was left alone, surrounded by armed thugs. He held a sword in his hand, while the thugs were armed with firearms. From above, someone silently observed the scene. Many crows gathered around the building where the fight took place. The leader of the crows also peeked in through the window. Looking out the window, Breakheart could be seen doing his bloody work. He had slaughtered the leaders of the Kolio clan. Mr. Park looked out the window and saw the shadow of a bird and the black feathers of a crow. He thought that a large bird had flown past him. The crows continued to circle above the building, their eyes shining strangely. Kang Yusung looked up from below the building and saw the black feathers of a bird, feeling a bad premonition. The corpses of Kolio clan fighters lay around the building. A large crow attacked Black York City. It was a mythical creature. The head of the Kolio family emerged. The current target was the Gambino family. Mafia clan assassins were on a rampage and ready to turn everything upside down. Kang Yusung turned his attention to the Gambino family office. What is Breakheart doing? The entire building shook. The young man thought that it had been a long time since he had seen Mr. Park on the battlefield. Kang Yusung also didn't want to show his cruel side. He and Mr. Park were similar in that regard. That's why he solved all his cases without witnesses. The young man wished his partner luck and told him to remember to finish everything there so they could rest together. The cat told Puck to move quickly at the fast food joint. The heroes decided to grab a snack. Mr. Park said that the young man ate cheeseburgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, almost all the time. Aren't you bored? Kang Yusung said that the local burgers were the best. As long as he was here, he wanted to enjoy them fully and wouldn't refuse anything. Mr. Park said that there were other delicious places in the city. The young man said that he rarely rested and didn't want the stress of choosing a place to eat right now. Kang Yusung asked his conversation partner how things were with the Gambino clan. Breakheart replied that his boss said he didn't know what was happening. Kang Yusung said that Mr. Park asked him to trust him but gave a very vague answer. Park said he wouldn't attend the Gambino meeting. Mr. Gambino couldn't communicate with anyone. All calls went unanswered. Neither Sanchez nor Falcone were contacted. Mr. Gambino didn't understand why no one was answering. Kang Yusung told his conversation partner that it was impossible for Capone to be destroyed by Gambino's hand. The boss's mouth bled. He wondered if all this was because of those monsters. The mafia boss was held by his chest by a heart surgeon and was told that in 2 hours, the blood flow to his heart would stop, followed by the heart itself. Breakheart added that he could avoid it under certain conditions. Breakheart said that the Gambino family should skip this meeting if they wanted to cooperate in finding out who was responsible for Capone's death. Mr. Gambino agreed, and Breakheart said that he was dealing with a very intelligent man as long as he didn't make mistakes. The Heartbreaker left the Gambino clan office, leaving a pile of corpses behind. Gambino was furious. He lost in this attack but had no way out now. At least he was still alive. Kang Yusung declared that they had nothing left. Mr. Park told him to stop chewing ice because it was terrible for his teeth. The Heartbreaker added that they would get more information at a meeting that wouldn't be long. The man added that besides that, it was just a guess, but it seemed like there was someone else besides these families. The clan bosses gathered with their families under strict supervision. The head of the Capone clan was transported in an armored car. At the table were 3 people, each with their consigliere behind them. Marcel Collio, head of the Collio family, said it was already quite late. The head of the Gambino family said that 2 people were still missing. Young Capone said that Falcone and Sanchez had disappeared. Perhaps they were the ones who destroyed his father. Rebecca told her boss not to jump to conclusions, to stay silent, and just observe. One of the militants burst into the room and said he had an urgent message for his boss. The hero and the Heartbreaker watched from a distance as the shooter delivered the news to the mafia leaders. The Godfathers were shocked. Falcone and Sanchez had been destroyed. This was a blow to the city's underworld. Kang Yusung said they had another enemy and still didn't know who it was. He said now he could see why the families seemed weakened. Kang Yusung replied that he felt he was the one growing stronger. The Godfathers noticed something above the ceiling, and everyone looked up. From above, something large descended directly onto the stage. It looked like a big black bird. Everyone watched the creature with interest and unease. The militants' weapons were ready. The creature turned to look at the people, and everyone saw that the man was wearing a crow mask and a black cloak. The man said how easy it was that all those who polluted this city gathered in one place. The Crow Man continued that the criminals were involved with corrupt politicians, manipulating unions, stealing from the poor. Raven continued that all here were liars and smugglers. They were vile criminals who only caused chaos. The Crow Man raised his hand and said that all this was because of them. They did nothing good. The man introduced himself as Cuovo Nocturno. Many birds appeared in the room, crows flying in circles above the criminals and screaming frantically. The young head of the Capone clan asked if it was true that Cuovo Nocturno had destroyed the other 2 heads. Cuovo Negro said it was true. Those people were criminals for whom even death was too low a price. Cuovo Negro added that he also destroyed Capone Jr., and Capone Jr. would soon meet him. Cuovo Negro said that everyone here was a criminal and, spreading his wings, launched an attack. Rebecca managed to protect her boss with special armor and told him to be careful. Capone Jr. told Rebecca that the crow had slaughtered his father. Rebecca replied that she knew everything and recalled the incident when she was under an umbrella in the rain. All was done for justice. There was a price to be paid even with blood. The warriors shouted that the crow was a bastard, and they were ready to destroy him, and they almost did so now. Night Raven decided justice. Kang Yusung said that in this case, the child was not responsible for the father's deeds. Kang Yusung held the black feathered bird in his hand and asked if it was Night Raven, the main criminal. Kang Yusung decided to fight against the Black Raven, but his opponent turned out to be quite cunning. The young man decided to change tactics. Our hero approached his opponent and placed his finger on the crow's head. This was not a good sign for the crow. The system informed that the black mark was in place. The Black Raven was trapped. Kang Yusung's opponent realized that he had no way out, so he started running around the room angrily and desperately. There is an option, a talisman to find the enemy. A narrator provides detailed information about the performance of the detected target and allows for the detection of weaknesses. When the narrator shouted, "Night Crow," the young man thought the bird was crowing. The bird had gained new colors on its feathers, and from its sharp feathers, dark energy emanated. One must be cautious with its feathers, as many contain explosives. We must be careful. Kang Yusung quietly moved away and waited for the black sign to activate. The circling Night Crow took care of the militants. Kang Yusung asked the Night Crow if it was a suicide bomber. In the room where this battle was taking place, small explosions started happening everywhere. All of this confused the enemies. Heartbreaker continued working with his daggers, finishing off the Mafia clan members. Tuin Park shouted that there were many opponents gathered this time, needing support. Tuin Park considered himself an expert in one-on-one combat and suggested Yusung switch places and handle the Black Crow himself. Kang Yusung said that all the bosses could be handled by Heartbreaker and he himself would handle the Black Crow. Kang Yusung added that Tuin Park was more suited to being a guard. Tuin Park retorted that he was a cold-blooded killer. Kang Yusung also countered, saying that killing was his element and all the journalists recognized him for it. Kang Yusung overcame the Black Crow without much difficulty. The Black Crow felt pressured and frightened. He said that Kang Yusung should have saved the world, so why was he now acting as a defender of criminals? The exhausted Black Crow said he did not know what information Kang Yusung had, but most likely his enemies had deceived him. They were a group of thugs who killed his family, Capone, and then walked out of court without being found guilty. The Black Crow added that these thugs escaped punishment because they had connections and money and should not be allowed to get away. The Black Crow continued his story, saying that the city was already rotten, which is why he began fighting for justice. The Masked Crow approached Kang Yusung and said, "You still have time to enforce justice in this city." The Black Crow asked Kang Yusung to join his side and continue the struggle together for the sake of goodness and justice. Kang Yusung said he was tired of this useless talk and added that it was time to remove the mask. Kang Yusung approached the crow and said the mask did not suit him, then took it off. Kang Yusung saw a child in front of him, the young leader of the Capone clan. The little crow thought the king. The young Capone said his justice would prevail no matter what and pressed the secret red button. Kang Yusung asked what Capone had just done. The young Capone said that Rebecca had informed him about the meeting 3 days ago. During that time, they managed to plant a large number of explosives. Explosions started happening throughout the building. The young Capone said that justice had been served. Time was running out. Darkish grabbed his master, and Tu and Puck left the exploding building. The top of the building housing the Mafia clan representatives exploded. The next day arrived, and Rebecca thanked the heroes for their loyalty. It was time to part ways. The girl said that thanks to these heroes, most of the businessmen at the meeting could not get what they wanted. Regardless, Capone was in luck at this moment. Kang Yusung added that the head of the dairy workers survived as Rebecca wanted. The victory was still theirs. Rebecca said that the men's work was done. Kang Yusung said he suspected that Rebecca had planned it all. The young man placed his ice sword around consigliere Mr. Capone. The girl was unafraid and asked what the conversation had to do with everything. After all, the facts had already happened. Kang Yusung said that he was hired to eliminate the enemies of the Capone family, which is why he was having this conversation. The young man said that Ravik had been involved in the murder of the family head and had even convinced the night thief to kill the other leaders. Ravik said they had no evidence. The hero replied that Cuvo Nocturno had betrayed him. The young man held a black feather in his hand. Kang Yusung said that Rebecca provided the information, so she was the traitor. Kang Yusung continued that the girl eliminated rival families and appointed Capone as the head. The puppet became the woman who practically controlled Black York. The king character added that this also made her an enemy of the Capone family. Rebecca said that everything was only for Mr. Vito. Vito was a child who was too good and innocent. Rebecca said that she eliminated the godfather who wanted to make Vito the successor and all external enemies who threatened him only to protect him from this cruel world. The girl added that she was only fulfilling her responsibilities as head of security. Just in case, Rebecca activated a protective barrier in front of her. Kang Yusung said that the girl stabbed the man who raised her in the back and placed a puppet at his side as a replacement for her boss. Mr. Park added that Rebecca only thought about her own safety. Now she hid behind high idealism. Pook added that because of Rebecca, Mr. Vito was not independent at all. After all, the girl only thought about herself. The girl replied that the characters didn't know her at all. And that was natural. Mr. Park said, in that case, it made sense to ask Vito. He opened the door next to him and everyone saw the child there. The young man said that it turned out Rebecca was the murderer of his father. The child took a gun out of his pocket and pointed it at Rebecca. His eyes shone with anger. This world is truly a cruel place. The system reported that the heroes had cleared the Godfather's tower. After all the stories, Mr. Park said that he just wanted to be a detective in a black and white film. The young man said that he was not a detective in the tower and not from the noir genre. It was more like a fight between superheroes and supervillains. Even so, he was glad this time he wasn't greeted by a crowd of journalists when he exited the tower. Mr. Park said that he liked it and suggested that the young man leave it at that. When Mr. Park's assistant appeared in the corner and said there was a problem, the girl said there was a problem with the 5th level tower in the city center. The girl added that it was a tower that was about to collapse. The men were very surprised to receive this information. The 5th level tower was manipulated by players because the association failed in the first attack and retreated. The young man in his defense said that they were given 3 penalty points for failing the attack. Dissatisfied people shouted that this would lower the level of all players. The young man apologized and said that they were willing to fix it. His conversation partner asked how. The young man said that he would launch an attack with a high level of difficulty. The interviewer thought he was crazy. The young man was undeterred and said that they had gone through a lot to get it. His conversation partner asked if he really wanted to go back to the basics and become a slave of the association. The young man stated that they had to regain the penalty points by any means, and a high difficulty attack was their only chance. After that, they decided to launch a high difficulty attack and were utterly devastated. Kang Yusung, sitting in the car, thought that he knew the association's point system and penalty points were cruel. Kang Yusung believed it shouldn't be like that, we need to find a middle ground. The young man thought that attacking the tower could solve some problems, but this rarely happened nowadays. However, during the first and second seasons, this disaster easily disappeared. At that time, proper techniques had not yet developed and failures were common. Solutions were not easy to find, and many had died long before. The hero thought that he had lost his closest people, a loss he experienced both before and after becoming a player. The young man thought that now things were different, so he decided to open the equipment and skill set without assembling them. The young man thought that he did a good job, an amulet to find enemies, a wind bracelet, a power ring. These could create a muse by expanding the user's shadow into shadows, strength, stealth, dodge modifier, and agility increased drastically. The young man thought that he should not let anything compromise him. He used the wind bracelet and the Shimmara bracelet. Kang Yusung had chosen a bloody target. Carlotta's spider web approached. The attack on the tower must be prepared for the monster invasion. The car stopped, and the young man arrived at his destination. The young man got out of the car, and everyone around him said that Kang Yusung had appeared. The people around said that thankfully Kang Yusung had appeared, now they were safe, at least they wouldn't die. There was a flash in the sky, the time X was approaching, and the countdown to the tower's destruction had begun. The heroes saw it and shouted that it would start soon and everyone must be ready. Kang Yusung decided to take action. He took the initiative and said everyone who met one of the following 3 criteria should hand over their feet and run from here. The first to be caught by the shadow of his ability, the second to not follow him, and the third to be anyone other than him. Everyone scattered, merciless monsters and bloodthirsty villains began descending on the planet. Kang Yusung said that this place was full of monsters of all kinds, there were orcs and reptilians. The young man added that there were monsters here he had never heard of before, said Kang Yusung. But judging by the name of the tower, the enemies the players should fight were people from the kingdom within the tower itself. This meant that the monsters coming out of the tower had nothing to do with the tower being attacked by Kang Yusung. Kang Yusung wondered where all this evil came from. Everyone watched how Kang Yusung managed to storm the tower with high difficulty alone. The cameraman recording the action said that although the king was a hero and a fairly controversial figure, in terms of ability, he was unmatched. The Lord of the Abyss summoned darkness from the deepest places. Everyone realized that the door was changing color, and this eerie tone was supposed to be a sign of monsters from the abyss. How could monsters from the abyss appear at the door of a level 5 tower? Kang Yusung stated, "Isn't that cute?" The young man advancing through the heavenly stairs thought that the Lord acted on his own will. The monsters from the abyss had appeared, and Kang Yusung decided to face them. He delivered some hard blows and thought that was enough for now. The young man was ready to cut the villain with one move, all the conditions for that were met. The young man applied Charlotte's spider web ability. Charlotte's spider web spread around the monster from the abyss. Kang Yusung continued the battle, weaving a thread of death between 2 points with his exceptional slashing ability. The symbiotic effect with his killing ability increased the number of spider webs he could create. The system informed him that the protagonist had defeated a monster from the abyss. As usual, Kang Yusung emerged victorious. The Lord of the Abyss blessed the hero with a stone from the abyss, expressing satisfaction that the rift in the tower had been sealed. Kang Yusung carefully examined the stone, recognizing it as a rare and unique treasure. The young man exited the tower as a winner, as usual, with reporters waiting outside. News of the tower raid spread rapidly. Kang Yusung, the true hero, found himself surrounded by reporters who ignored the other heroes. The young man looked around as if nothing had happened, his shadow close behind. An interview with Kang Yusung circulated in all the news, reporting that the player association was completely useless. He doubted if there was a single functional association in the country. It seemed that players who died failed in their attempts to raid the tower, fearing penalty points from the association. So, they tried again at a higher difficulty, ultimately meeting the same fate. They had reached a point where they couldn't even save themselves. Therefore, the tower was out of control after Kang Yusung's statement, raising many questions. A federal representative from the association acknowledged that their rules were hardly enforceable. This had been rumored for a long time, whether they reduced the effectiveness of raids on the tower or charged players heavily for their victories, making even wins a loss for players. Kang Yusung wondered if they would really gain anything this time. Mr. Park stated that they had already provided a lot to talk about and that the association deserved it. Mr. Park added that they should not miss the opportunity to clean the association of unnecessary elements. Kang Yusung questioned why Mr. Park was making such a decision, wondering if he was planning to run for president. Mr. Park said he wanted to form a guild. The young man opposed it, saying the law didn't allow it. Was Mr. Park planning to change the law? Mr. Park replied that he wanted to seize the opportunity to make changes and straighten out the mess among the association leaders. There wasn't a single player among them. These people had never been in the tower, yet they set the rules of the game, promoting only those with support and ignoring others. Mr. Park said he wanted to channel this idea into public opinion to repeal the guild law. The young man wished Mr. Park luck. Juwon added that he wouldn't handle the bureaucracy, trusting Mr. Park instead. For a while, his friends continued to clarify things and tried to understand each other. It was a conversation after conversation. The petition to allow the formation of a national player guild received 177,000 signatures overnight, but the main association director couldn't permit it. A TV host reported that public opinion favored Kang Yusung and the association veterans to organize the Brotherhood. The head of the association wondered how they dared to divert the players' attention. The man was furious, blaming Mr. Park and Kang Yusung for everything. The association president said that many people didn't know how dangerous players could be to civilians, especially the black-clad ones. It was always necessary to regulate player autonomy for the safety of the citizens. In some countries, governments loosened control, and the guilds joined the underworld. Some countries had even become kingdoms of black-clad players. Even major powers that allowed private player guilds still controlled their best players through conscription. The association president believed players were a ticking time bomb. If control became impossible, choosing the lesser of two evils was necessary. The president of the association believes that people who want to change the rules of the game do not understand how the world works. The system reported to the president of the association that geniuses are usually not recognized by society. The man noted this. The system reported that the evil king was interested in the president of the association. The system asked if the man wanted to participate in the tower exam. Many people in the city noticed an advertisement that had been running since last year. The hero in the advertisement was Kang Yusung. Many people wondered why he hadn't retired from the advertisement yet. Kang Yusung saw this advertisement and thought about the guild. This question kept popping up in his mind. Occasionally, the young man recalled his discussion with Mr. Park, who argued that Kang Yusung should form a guild. Young responded to his friend that he hated working with fools more than anything and he despised idiots. Mr. Park said that the young man didn't need to worry about that, he would only show his face as the face of the advertising campaign. Anyway, it's always hard to be the first. Mr. Park said he wanted to arrange all this for a better future. Only Kang Yusung could do it. Kang Yusung was always at the forefront. Kang Yusung thought it was his duty to storm the tower. The system said he was looking for a level 7 tower or higher, but there were no results. The search radius increased, and the system reported the route to the nearest level 6 tower. The distance to the nearest level 6 tower was 226 kilometers. The search was complete. There was always a way to enter the tower even if you weren't looking for it. For example, getting something from the tower as a reward and waiting for a summons. Kang Yusung received a gift from the head dairy farmer in the form of a dagger. These gifts represented a means of communication between the tower world and the outside world. Rebecca's dagger was received from the head of the Capone family as a sign of trust. Kang Yusung thought that maybe he wouldn't be recruited, but now he decided to wait. Reports began appearing all over the capital announcing the arrival of a new tower and inviting viewers to enjoy live attacks from the best players on the planet. Kang Yusung was truly talking about the best players on the planet at that time. Children with one face and one talent would entertain and urge Kang Yusung to participate. The level of the new tower was elite. To enter the tower, one had to be among the top 10 players. Of the 2 players from the same country, the one with the higher level would qualify. Maria Jeger certainly qualified for this raid. No one would die inside the tower. There was an opportunity to make useful connections. All incidents in the tower would be broadcast live. Mr. Park was certainly interested in this information. Participating in this raid promised a big bonus. 100 million people would randomly die. Kang Yusung was certainly interested in this proposal. He couldn't believe it. Spectators and journalists were waiting for everyone to gather. Undoubtedly, everyone was waiting for Kang Yusung. Every step of the young man had to be broadcast live. Kang Yusung said that today he was a volunteer. Santa Maria Jeger, one of the participants in this raid, called Kang Yusung an old acquaintance, extended a hand to Kang Yang, and said she was happy to see him again. The young man responded and said he was also very happy. All the famous heroes on the planet decided to participate in this raid. This fight promised to be epic. That's it for the language of this manhwa. If a new chapter comes out, we will discuss it immediately. Thank you and see you next time.